Imagine you walk into the grocery store. You grab the same things you always buy: eggs, bread, chicken, fruit. You get to checkout, and somehow it's 30 or 40% more than it used to be. Same job, same salary, same habits, but your money feels smaller. And you're not imagining it. Millions of people are working just as hard as they did 5 years ago, but can afford less life with the same paycheck. Today, we're going to break down why everything keeps getting more expensive in a way that actually makes sense. Here's the thing. Most people think inflation just means prices going up. That's technically true, but it misses what's really happening. Inflation isn't just higher prices, it's your money losing purchasing power. And if you don't understand it, you can work harder every year and still fall behind. This is part of the How Money Actually Works series, where we break down money clearly, without hype or confusion. Let's simplify this. Inflation means prices rise over time, but more importantly, it means the same amount of money buys fewer goods and services. If bread costs $2 today and $2.40 next year, that's inflation. If rent goes from $1,000 to $1,100, that's inflation. But notice something. The products didn't change, your money did. It became weaker. Inflation is not about prices growing, it's about purchasing power shrinking. Now you might be wondering, why does this happen? There are three main drivers. First, demand increases. More people want the same goods. Second, production costs rise. Labor, transportation, energy. Third, and most important, the money supply increases. For example, between 2020 and 2022, the U.S. money supply expanded dramatically according to Federal Reserve data. When more money enters the system, but goods don't increase at the same speed, more money starts chasing the same number of products. Let me simplify that. Imagine there are 10 pizzas in a room and 10 people. Everyone gets one. Now imagine there are still 10 pizzas, but 15 people with money. People start offering more per slice. That's inflation. More money, same goods, higher prices. Let's talk real numbers. Imagine you make $50,000 per year. If inflation is 2 to 3%, it's manageable. But if inflation averages 7% for several years, your purchasing power erodes quickly. At 7% inflation, money loses roughly half its purchasing power in about 10 years. That means $100,000 today would feel like around $50,000 in buying power a decade later. Same number, very different lifestyle. This is why so many people say, "I'm earning more than ever, but I feel broke." They're thinking in salary terms, but wealth is about purchasing power. Inflation doesn't always show up as obvious price increases. Sometimes it's subtle: smaller product sizes, lower quality materials, extra fees, subscription price increases. A chocolate bar that used to be 100 grams becomes 80 grams, same price. Streaming services add ads to paid plans. Airlines charge for everything separately. Inflation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet erosion. Here's where it gets deeper. Inflation changes behavior. When people expect prices to rise, they spend faster, they save less, they take on more debt. Why? Because subconsciously, money later feels less valuable than money now. This creates a feedback loop. More spending increases demand. Higher demand pushes prices further. Inflation is economic, but it's also psychological. Here's the uncomfortable part. If your money sits in cash long term, it almost guarantees loss of purchasing power. Historically, over decades, cash loses value relative to assets. This is why wealthy individuals don't hold large amounts of idle cash long term. They hold productive assets, businesses, stocks, real estate. Assets often adjust with inflation. Currency does not. Inflation silently transfers value from holders of cash to owners of productive assets. So what can you do? You can't eliminate inflation, but you can position yourself intelligently. Track your personal inflation. National averages don't tell your story. Look at your biggest expense categories: housing, food, energy, insurance, healthcare. Your personal inflation rate matters more than headlines. Be intentional with cash. Cash is important. It provides stability and emergency protection, but structure it. Layer 1, emergency fund, 3 to 6 months expenses. Layer 2, short-term goals. Layer 3, long-term capital, invested, not idle. The goal isn't no cash, it's intentional cash. Increase earning power. Inflation punishes fixed income. Skills, adaptability, and income growth are powerful defenses. The strongest hedge against inflation isn't always an asset. It's becoming more valuable in the market. Think in real terms. Stop asking, how much money do I have? Start asking, what can this money buy? A 10% return means little if inflation is 9%. Real return is what matters. Wealth isn't the number, it's the purchasing power behind it. Inflation isn't dramatic. It doesn't empty your bank account overnight. It erodes slowly, quietly, year after year. If you don't understand it, you may mistake movement for progress. You might think you're building wealth when you're simply running in place. But once you understand how inflation works, you stop playing defense with money and start positioning yourself strategically. If this helped you understand why everything keeps getting more expensive, subscribe. Because on this channel, we don't just talk about money, we break down how money actually works so you can build real financial independence with clarity. And in the next video, we're talking about something just as important: why saving money alone will never make you rich. I'll see you there.